Hey everybody, Jay Super Awesome here. I'd like to welcome you all to episode number 4 of my 31 Days of Horror in October. In this video, I will be showing you everything I have watched from October 20th through October 26th. Let's have a look. October 20th, 2019, I watched Return of the Fly. Now, I really enjoyed the original Fly, and I thought this one was a little bit more cheesy, but for the most part, I did enjoy it. I really liked the storyline within this movie. We have some betrayal elements, and I thought it was really cool that Vincent Price returned to be in this movie. This time around, we have a young scientist who is determined to continue his father's work, the scientist from the first film. He is determined to continue with the teleportation experiment despite the warnings from his uncle, played by Vincent Price. And of course, his obsession with this project will lead him down a doomed path. There's a lot of things that I really like about this movie. I really like the laboratory setting. I always thought it was really cool to see all the science equipment in these old movies. It's just really neat. There's a really good scene to where they are going to teleport a guinea pig. So they do the first phase of the process. They make him disappear, but before they're going to bring him back, they're going to wait overnight and bring him back the next day. Sometime during the night, there is a scuffle in the basement with a villain character and a detective. The detective is murdered and stuffed into the teleportation machine, and when he reappears, he is fused with the guinea pig, so he ends up being a mixture of a dead detective and a guinea pig, and it's really weird looking. And later on, when we finally do get to see the Fly, I thought he was pretty cheesy looking. His head is huge. And when he finally does appear, he is trying to avoid being shot, so he escapes out the door off into the woods. And the actor was clearly having a hard time seeing where he was going because he was trying to hold the head up. I thought it was really interesting that they chose to leave that in the film, but I'm really glad they did. Overall, I thought this movie was cheesy fun. October 21st, 2019, I watched Haunt. And oh man, this is probably one of the best slasher films that I have seen this year. The storyline to this one is really simple. We have a group of friends who decide to go into an extreme haunt. It takes them a little while to realize what's going on is real. They're starting to be picked off one by one, and escape seems impossible. So the storyline seems very simple, but the execution is perfect. Haunt is going to go down as one of my favorite horror movies of this style. Basically, where you have a scare attraction, and this one takes place on Halloween night, so it has fantastic atmosphere. I really enjoyed all the characters. I thought all the acting was really good, and I thought all the villain characters were really creepy. It says right here on the front of the DVD that this is from the writers of A Quiet Place and was produced by Eli Roth. And I felt like this movie had a pretty high production value. I thought it was shot and filmed very well. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. If you are a fan of haunts, scare attractions, these style of slasher films, then I believe you will really enjoy Haunt. I thought it was awesome. October 22nd, 2019, I watched Halloween H2O. And being honest about it, this is one of my least favorite Halloween films. I have major issues with it. But for the most part, I still do enjoy it. After all, it is a slasher film. The storyline for this one this time around takes place 20 years after the original attack on Laurie Strode. She has now changed her name and has become the headmistress of a private school. She now has a son, which by all accounts would mean she has 2 children, but they decide to avoid the Jamie Lloyd storyline altogether, so now she's back to having just one child, who she desperately tries to protect from the evils of the world. This is your basic run but you can't hide type storyline, because evil does eventually track them down. My biggest issue with this movie is the Michael Myers character itself. I'm not a big fan of the look of Michael Myers in this movie. I don't like the mask, and Michael Myers himself looks like he might weigh 110 pounds soaking wet. I didn't like the way he would walk and stalk his victims. He just come off as looking really goofy in my opinion, and there's a lot of off-screen kills in this one, so that doesn't really help it out either. And I'm not really sure why Michael took up an interest in gymnastics for this one. If you have seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So overall, I still have fun with this movie, but it's definitely not one of my favorite Halloween films. October 23rd, 2019, I watched Tremor, A Cold Day in Hell. The first thing I wanted to mention about this movie is I thought the special effects were really good this time around. The Grabloids and the ass blasters looked amazing. The storyline this time around is still very familiar stuff. We once again have Bert hunting Grabloids, this time in Canada. The movie opens up in what appears to be an Arctic looking setting. There's snow everywhere, and we get our first Grabloid encounter. Now, I thought this was a really awesome opening to the movie, but unfortunately I was a little disappointed because I thought this was what the movie was going to be, Tremors in the snow, but that wasn't the case. We just get the opening sequence, and that was it for Grabloids in the snow. So I was a little disappointed with that. We do move to a different location to where we have a research facility, so it's a isolated location. And once again, we have our cast of characters fending off the Grabloids and ass blasters. One thing that I thought was interesting about the storyline this time around is that Bert has been poisoned by Grabloid venom, and the only way to get a cure is to capture a live Grabloid and extract the Grabloid venom to create a cure. So I thought that was really cool. Overall, I did enjoy this movie, and I hope they continue to make Tremor films. October 24th, 2019, I watched Demonic Toys, and I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite full moon films. Most of the movie takes place inside a toy storage warehouse. The movie opens up in the parking lot outside the toy warehouse. We have a undercover duo who we find out are in a relationship, and just as she is telling her partner that she is pregnant, the arms dealers arrive and the exchange goes horribly wrong. She leads the chase inside the toy warehouse, and once inside, they are locked in. Once inside the warehouse, one of the wounded villains dies on the very spot where a demon rests. His blood seeps into the ground, resurrecting the demon. And now, this demon wants a new human body, and of course we have learned that our female lead character is pregnant. So the storyline basically becomes a good versus evil type storyline with some killer toys thrown in the mix. I enjoy each one of these killer toys. I thought some of the effects on some of the kills were pretty cheap looking, but considering these are killer toys, it actually works pretty well. So overall, I find this movie to be highly entertaining. October 25th, 2019, I watched Sweet 16. And I thought Sweet 16 was a pretty fun and entertaining slasher film from the 80s. I thought it was really cool how this movie had an actor from the Halloween franchise and an actor from the Friday the 13th franchise. So I thought that was pretty cool. The storyline for this one is basically we have a sheriff in a small town who is trying to uncover the mystery of the recent murders that have begun to plague his small town. Upon further research, he discovers that similar murders had taken place in the past. The local residents are starting to point the finger at the local Native American residents. So you have sort of a little bit of a racist issue going on. Surrounding all of this is Melissa, who is fastly approaching her 16th birthday, and Melissa is a pretty odd character herself. My one and only complaint about this movie is I wish they could have been a little bit more creative with the death scenes. All the kill sequences are basically the same, and I'm not really going to go into any details as to what happens, but I do wish they could have been a little bit more creative with the kills. Overall, I really do enjoy this 80s slasher film. October 26, 2019, I watched Puppet Master, Axis of Evil. And I chose to watch this one because I had never seen it before. I have actually watched all of them up until this point. This one was released in 2010, so I'm hoping to start getting caught up on the Puppet Master movies. The storyline for this one takes place in 1939, right after Tu Long's suicide. Two Nazis, who are this story's main villains, enter his hotel room and search for his secrets, which we know are the puppets. But the puppets are hidden away and they are unable to find them, so they soon leave. Danny is a young boy who had befriended Tu Long and will become the new puppet master in this storyline. Danny has a disability in one of his legs and was unable to join the fight in World War II, but will soon use the puppets to fight along his side when he discovers what the two Nazis were up to. The two Nazis have joined up with a female Japanese villain type character. Their plans are to blow up a American manufacturing plant, and this just so happens to be the place of employment for Danny's girlfriend. I always thought it was really neat to see what puppets were going to be in each Puppet Master movie. In Axis of Evil, we have Blade, we have Tunneler, Jester, and Pinhead, and Leech Girl. The new puppet for this movie is Ninja, and we do get to see his origin story or how he was created. So I thought that was really cool. For the most part, I did enjoy this movie, but I do have some issues with it. For an 83-minute runtime, it does feel a little bit like a slow burn for some reason, which is kind of odd with it being only 83 minutes. The thing I didn't like the most about the movie is the ending. It has a sudden ending, and I really didn't like the ending at all. So hopefully the next movie does pick up immediately after this one, but that's something that I will have to wait and see. But overall, I thought this was pretty decent. It's definitely not one of my favorite Puppet Master movies, but I enjoyed it for the most part. Okay, so there you have it. Be sure to join me again on November 1st for the final episode of my 31 Days of Horror in October. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think about this video, and I would like to thank you all for watching.